My name is Naomi King. I am a qualified lawyer in Australia and I recently passed the QLTS assessments on my first attempt. I qualified as a solicitor in Queensland, Australia back in 2007. I worked for a leading Australian law firm for 3 years doing project finance work before being seconded to a Japanese trading company in Tokyo in 2010. I worked in-house for the company for 3 years and enjoyed my time so much in Tokyo that I decided to transfer to the project finance group of Shearman Sterling in Tokyo in 2013. While Shearman Sterling is an international law firm, they don't practice Australian law. Therefore, it was a prerequisite to my employment that I take the QLTS assessments and become qualified to practice English law. Well, our Human Resources Department suggested a number of preparation courses, and after looking through each of the options, I decided to take the QLTS School course because it seemed to be the most comprehensive and developed specifically for the exam. There were actually 2 exams, and the QLTS School provided various materials for both, together with some mock papers. But being a full-time lawyer, time is always an issue. However, with a certain amount of planning and discipline, together with the guidelines that the QLTS School provided, I was able to get through the materials confidently to pass the exam on my first try. Simply put, the most beneficial part of the QLTS preparation course for me was the mock papers, because they helped me to focus my studies and the questions ended up being fairly similar to what was ultimately in the exam. Well, time is always an issue, so the first step for me was to break down the materials into manageable chunks. This meant that sometimes I could only spend 30 minutes a day to study, but other times I could spend up to 3 to 4 hours over a weekend. Given that my firm needed me to be able to practice English law, naturally they were very supportive throughout the entire process. This included paying for the exam and the study materials and also the travel and accommodation costs. They were also generous enough to give me some time off before both sets of exams to allow me to do some final preparation work. Well, no matter how much anybody prepares for any type of exam on any topic, there's always a certain amount of nervousness that sets in on test day. That said, when looking at the questions, I was confident that I had prepared enough to be able to pass the exam on the first go. As a project finance lawyer based in Tokyo, my work largely involves advising Japanese banks and Japanese companies investing in large-scale projects overseas. Looking back, I think that the preparation course was absolutely vital in helping me to pass both the MCT and OSCE exams. The materials helped me to hone in on the topics that were actually going to be covered, and without that guidance, the preparation time would have taken much longer. My biggest advice for anyone looking to take the QLTS exam is not to leave your studies to the last minute. It's not the type of test that you can cram for, and especially for lawyers who work full-time, I would recommend setting aside a regular study schedule so that you can be confident walking into the exam room. I would recommend the QLTS to any person who, like me, is qualified to practice outside of England and Wales, but is looking to do more cross-border transaction work, because invariably a lot of the documents that you'll have to review will be governed by English law. In my experience working in Tokyo, cross-border also means cross-culture. It's not enough to be able to dictate legal terms to the parties involved in a transaction. You also need to be able to work through issues from both commercial and cultural perspectives.